Thank you for the scripture reading. Thank you for the beautiful song. Good morning and happy Sabbath. So happy to be here once again to be able to share with all of you. Hopefully my sharing will be short. All right. As a new father, most of the time you're thinking, okay, maybe you should preach something about our baby or how my experience has become a father and things like that. But I feel like I don't have a lot of experience yet to share with everyone. So I'm going to share about Hannah, but not my baby Hannah, but Bible Hannah. Okay, but anyway, this morning, tell a bit about the baby. This morning when we went to Cradle Roll, actually first time I went to Cradle Roll. I haven't been to Cradle Roll before this. And they were singing a song, they had, all the little kids were there, and then all of them had a toy duck and a toy felt puppy, a dog, right? And they're going to sing a song. The song is called, and the mother dog says, bow wow. Then all the little puppies come running after mommy, right? And I think one of the few things that I've learned, throughout these 3 months of being a father is that the baby always wants to be with mommy. So, yeah. Initially you feel a bit, I felt a bit like, a bit upset, because no matter how I hold my baby or Hannah, I try to, but sometimes when she's upset and she's cranky and she just doesn't want me, and I just can't. Then immediately if I give it to my wife, Wanji, and then she holds, and then the baby becomes quiet, so why is that, sometimes we think, and Wanji says, that's because you work, in the whole day and I'm at home with the baby, yeah. So this tells us that, in a relationship, especially in children, you can see, when we spend time and invest our time in this relationship, the relationship becomes deeper and stronger. So how have we invested and spent our time with God today? So today's title of my sermon is actually Hannah's Investment. All right. So why are we talking about investment? I'm not a very good investor, or I'm not. A lot of people tell me, and my friends also tell me, when you start working and okay, you have to start to do some investments, and I have to invest in this, invest in that. But I don't know. I don't know how things are. And apparently this year is not a good year for investment. That's what I heard now. And with the war, and all, and in war, in rumors of war in Taiwan, and all kinds of bad things that are happening these days. It truly is the last days, and it helps us to think about where should we put, our time and our money in. Where should we invest in? What is our best investment at this period of time? With the hurricane just happened, in US, and the floods and the droughts that are happening around the world. What has our investment been? Although I'm not good at investing financially, I don't know, I think a lot of you might be very good at investing financially, but I'm not very good at investing financially. Every day and each day, our every action and our every attitude is an investment. It is an investment towards either glorifying God or glorifying ourselves. And just like investment, where you have to study the stocks and decide what is the good investment to put, we also have to study and make wise investments so that we can receive the greatest dividends in our lives and in the life to come. So let us learn investment from Hannah, all right? Because Hannah is a wise investor. Hannah in the Bible is a wonderful woman, all right? If you know, in 1 Samuel, if you can turn with me, in chapter 1, it's the story of Hannah. Hannah is a good investor, all right? Not my baby Hannah, but by Hannah in the Bible. My baby doesn't know how to invest yet, but yeah. So what did she invest in? I would encourage us, that that this sharing that I would share with everyone would help us to encourage us so that we can learn from Hannah how to hang in there and continue to invest. All right. So Hannah's situation is not the best situation to be in, right? So Hannah's life is probably not the best life that one person can choose. She didn't make bad decisions in her life, right? So many of times we find ourselves in a bad position because we do some mistakes or we made a bad decision. But Hannah hasn't done any bad decisions per se, right? She married a man, and her husband is called Elkanah, right? So she is in this family with Elkanah, and Elkanah is a good man, right? He is a godly man. He's a devoted man. He's not a bad person. He's not a bad man. And so for Hannah, she felt like, it's a good decision that she has made in her life. But she is unable to have children. That's what we know, in the story, right? Hannah could not bear children, and she did not have children. And at that time of the society, the pressure is such that woman needs to have children. Sometimes even in the current society, women also feel pressured, to have children. And if you cannot have children, it's something that is very difficult and something very shameful. And so at that in that period of time, because of that, Elkanah had another wife who is Penina, right? Penina is the other wife, and she had many children. So that's not a good situation to be in, right? That she's the first wife, and then there's the second wife, and Hannah couldn't have any children, while Penina has many children. But we know that, Hannah is a good person, right? She's a godly woman. She's a gentle woman. She's a kind lady, and she's very patient. She seems to be a person very well suited to bring up a baby, right? To raise up children. But the Bible tells us that for God's own purposes, for His own purposes, God shut up her womb, and she did not have any children. While Penina, who is if we read the story, we find out that she's very rude, right? She's a jealous woman, a mean-spirited lady, a lady who's very envious, But she has many, many children. And sometimes in our life, sometimes we also see that happening, that, people who seems, best suited and really wants to have children and is at a position where they can raise children, have no children. God's, for His own purposes, shut up their wombs. But some people, many people, other people who don't really want to just, keep having children one after another. And Hannah is very heartbroken in this situation. And it is a situation that she cannot control. There's nothing she can do about it. It's not something that she can change, or there's something that she can make an effort to and can change her current situation to be in. And difficult situations happen to us in life, like the two songs that were sung, today, the two special songs. First one was Redeemer of the Rain, right? Where it talks about God redeems when there is not always sunshine and there is rain sometimes in life. And also Greater Than Grace, right? When we are going through difficult times in the valley. And there are difficult situations that happen to us, and these things can happen to us anytime, without our control, and there's nothing we can do to change it. And many a times for us, when these bad things happen to us, Hannah is there to be an example for us, to teach us that she continues to stay on. Hannah invested in her family. Even though her situation is terrible, she did not abandon her family. Penina it's actually a terrible name. I don't know. I don't think anybody's name is Penina, so I've never met anyone called Penina. And very thankfully, my daughter is not called Penina and called Hannah. Alright, but Penina, she's very jealous, right? Why is she jealous? Because because Elkanah loves Hannah, right? But she has the children, where Hannah doesn't have the children. So she always provoked her, and in Samuel chapter 1, you can see that every day, Penina would rub the salt in the wounds of Hannah, right? And then keep on taunting her, telling her, yeah, you are the first wife, yeah, but I have the children, right? Yeah, you can have his heart, right? Or you can have his love, but I have his children. Look what you have. Look what I have, right? Every year, every day. And she would keep making Hannah cry. And that is a terrible and a difficult situation to be in. Because sometimes family is very difficult, right? And I think many of us can relate to that. That not always, family is a very joyous and happy and, good. Not everyone in the family means well to you. There's someone in your family, maybe a brother or a sister, maybe an uncle, a cousin, an aunt, someone who is taunting you, someone rubbing you the wrong way, someone who's always jealous of you. And Penina, she's very jealous of Hannah. In a family, not always people mean well to you. There is sometimes bitterness in the family. There's sometimes anger. There's sometimes an unresolved conflict that's happening. And everything is, right under the surface. And on the surface, everyone is like, okay, put out our appearances, we come and meet each other during New Year or during holiday. But any little thing that happened, any small thing, anything that, is wrong, and immediately some family just stop talking to each other for years and years and years. I don't know if you've experienced with that kind of a situation. But my family do happen that way, where, there's some misunderstanding and there's some difficulty. Sometimes it's about finances or money, sometimes it's about people or attitude and things like that. And then they stop talking to each other, stop having time with each other. And it happens even between husband and wife, or between boyfriend and girlfriend, or between parent and children, where there is friction and there's rubbing. And my mother, always nagging kind of feeling, right? Oh, they don't understand what I'm going through. Oh, they, kind of things, they don't. And there's always this kind of thing that happen in the family. And it can be very difficult sometimes. But Hannah tells us that no matter how difficult the family is, we do not quit on our family. We do not walk out on our family. We want to stay in our family and continue to invest in our family. Continue to invest in that boy. Continue to invest in that girl. Maybe, looks like right now, it doesn't seem to pay off. It doesn't seem seems useless, the effort that you're doing, the things that you're doing, the investments they are making on your family, the time that you're spending, doesn't seem to have any, I do all this for my children, but they don't seem to appreciate it. Or I do this for my parents, they don't even care. But we must continue to invest and keep investing and putting in and putting in. When they are young, they are rebellious, they are mad, they are disobedient, but need to keep teaching. We need to keep training. We need to keep living right in front of them. We need to keep on giving them the right example in our lives. Keep on reading Bible with them. Bring them to church. Keep on showing them the way. Keep on bringing them to Sabbath school. And it's the same for our family in church also. A lot of misunderstanding happen between, especially, I don't know, it's a wonderful thing. I think it's a good thing. When I was in Malacca, we have only one church, Malacca church. Everyone is stuck in that one church. So, you can't have everywhere to go. But Penang, we have like 4 churches, 5 churches. Now we have Sungai Ara Church also. So I don't know, some people come to this church one way and go to the other church the other way. I don't like this person in this church, so I go to the other church and things like that. Happens all the time. But we all know that, I can testify, and I believe Many of us here in church can testify that we are here today and you are here today because someone, your father or your mother, a brother, a sister, a cousin, a friend, a Bible teacher, a deacon, a care group leader, a Sabbath school teacher, an elder, someone has invested in your life and someone has been investing in you. And that is why I stand here in church today, because someone did not give up on me and continued to invest in me and invest in you. Hannah could have very easily walked out of the family. You know, if it happens today, many families we can see, you know, having problems, having difficulty, they quit, they have divorce, they get separated. Hannah could have easily left. She feels marginalized. She doesn't have any children. She feels out of place. She feels she's less of a person just being there. She feels she's left out. But Hannah didn't do that. She stayed. She stayed year after year after year. Hannah shows us how to stand firm and how to continue to stay on even under constant pressure and constant ridicule without giving in. Sometimes we give up too soon. Sometimes we give up things too easily. Someone might have given up on their marriage too soon. Someone might have given up on their children, their son or their daughter too soon. Someone might have given up on church too soon. Someone might have given up on God too soon. But Hannah is here to tell us that no matter how difficult it is, no matter how stressful, we must never give up. Hannah stayed despite the ridicule that despite all the pain and the difficult situation that is increasingly difficult year after year. Not only did she stay despite of the difficulty, Hannah stayed on and continued to invest in her family even though she is discouraged. Now every year, Elkanah brings the family to sacrifice, right? So this particular year, in this story, when Hannah and Peninnah and Elkanah, they went up to Shiloh to worship. That's how we know actually that Elkanah is actually a very godly man, right? Because at that time, during those times, there was no temple yet, right? The temple was what? Was the tabernacle, the tent. And that was in Shiloh. It wasn't in Jerusalem. Jerusalem wasn't part of them yet, right? So it was a tabernacle in Shiloh, and that time was the time of the judges, right? And it was a time where there was no leader and people do whatever they please. Whatever was right in their eyes, they do. No, they do all kinds of evil things. But here, even though the church was very corrupt, that time the church was very corrupt also, right? That, Eli's two sons, right? Phinehas and Hophni, they were doing all kinds of bad things in the temple in church. But Elkanah, despite of that, every year, he still goes to sacrifice. That's how we know that he is a godly and persistent man. So Elkanah brings her family, Peninnah and Hannah. Every year they will go to the festival, to the tabernacle, to make sacrifice. And this year, Hannah was exceptionally difficult. And she was crying all the time. And she didn't want to eat. The Bible tells us, that Elkanah asked her, why? Why are you so sad, right? Elkanah asked, sometimes husband be so very hard. And the wife cry, and you don't know why she crying. Sometimes you want to comfort her, And Elkanah says, am I not better than 10 sons, right? That's how much Elkanah loves her. And when they give out the portion, the food, right, to everyone, then Peninnah and the children all get their portion. But for Hannah, Elkanah gives her what? Double portion, right? Double portion. That's how much love. But when we are discouraged, when we are in despair, we do not see sometimes the love that is surrounding us. We cannot see sometimes how God loves us when we are in a discouraged situation. Hannah, when she was discouraged, she could not see the love that Elkanah is showing to her. She only sees the cup half empty and not half full, right? And so she was very discouraged. She couldn't eat, and she felt terrible at that time. Penina was exceptionally difficult with her this year, was taunting her and making her. But even though Hannah is discouraged, even though it was difficult, and even though she's in despair and in discouragement, when she's in the lowest point, when she cannot see even the love of her own husband towards her, she doesn't give up. Even in discouragement, we have a weapon. Hannah has a weapon that she hasn't used yet on Penina, on the enemy. What is the only weapon that we can have, that we can use in our discouragement towards our enemy? It is prayer. Prayer is the weapon that God has given to us. When we pray, God will take care of our enemies. When you pray, and you pray the right way, God will hear and He will answer. He will shut the mouth of your enemy. Today we sing the song, "The Lord is my light." In Psalms it says, "He is my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life, whom shall I be afraid?" When the wicked, even my enemies and foes, come to me and they want to eat my flesh, they will stumble and fall, because God will trick them. The traps that they set for me, God will see to it that they will fall into it themselves. God will take care of our enemies from us. God will take care of all these things for us. But we cannot retaliate fire with fire. We cannot retaliate against our enemies. The only weapon that works in this situation is prayer. And Hannah used her weapon. So she went up to pray in the tabernacle. And when Hannah went to pray, the Bible tells us she's praying in her heart. And when she opened her mouth is moving. But what happens? No words can come out. Why is it that this thing is happening? Has anyone experienced pain and discouragement and sorrow that is so bad, that is so difficult, that is so painful, that when you try to pray, no words can come out? When you try to say something, you cannot verbalize that pain inside you. You cannot verbalize that words. Nobody can understand that pain. No one knows that thing that you are feeling except for God and you. You can't even tell your friends. You can't even tell your family. You can't even tell your wife or your husband or those closest to you about that pain and that suffering. And sometimes you come to church, you're smiling, but inside you're crying. You come and you're laughing, but inside you're broken. That pain, that deep, deep pain that you have, that you can only come to church before God, and you come to God, and in His presence, you can't even speak, and you just cry. And when you just cry and cry and cry, no words can come out. That is what Hannah is experiencing. And I believe some of us here is experiencing that in their life and might be experiencing it right now. And if you are experiencing that pain, and you have experienced that pain, I want you to know that God can answer your prayer. Eli, the priest, is the priest. She sees Hannah and she thinks that she's what? She's drunk. She thinks that she's some, bad lady. She's been drinking too much and doing all these bad things. And sometimes people can misunderstand us when we're in pain. And sometimes we misunderstand people and we do not see the pain that they're going through. Today in church, the person sitting right next to you might be in pain and you may not know it. The person sitting in church, he might look very weird. Why is he doing that? Why is he, not clean his face or dressed very terribly or, looking all terrible and sitting alone there? And you don't know what that person is going through. Sometimes we judge people too fast. Sometimes we, become the kind of moral police. Tell, okay, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, and things like that, right? But we don't know what that person went through to come to church this morning. What that person went through, how much pain they have gone through, how much crying or how much difficulty that they took before they could come to church this morning. Let us, try our best to learn and to look at other people. Many times we have a lot of burdens and difficulty that we endured. Hannah tells us that we must continue to invest. Hannah stayed to invest in her family despite her difficult situation. She continued to invest in her family despite being discouraged. And she continued to invest and never gave up despite how people around her look at her. Her only solace was in prayer to God. And that is the only solace that is true and steadfast throughout the sorrows and pain in our life. Only God can give us peace when the world around us is in terrible situation. And if we look at Hannah's prayer, what did Hannah pray for to God? What is her prayer? Hannah's prayer is something like this. She says, if God, you would give me a son, I will give him back to you all the days of his life. That is her prayer. Hannah's prayer is, God, if you give me a son, I will give this son back to you. Sometimes we have children for our own satisfaction, to build our own posterity, to have our own legacy, to fulfill some kind of ego, or maybe to satisfy some instinct that is within us. But if you want your children, your boy, your girl, to be everything they ought to be, when they are born, give them back to God. Give your children back to God. Hannah, what did she do? She made sure that Samuel is her son. We know that God answered her prayer and gave her a son, Samuel, right? So Hannah made sure that Samuel's role models, Samuel's heroes, are not outside the church. She put Samuel right in the temple, in the tabernacle, to make sure that those who influence him are the people in church. Bring your children to church so that people who mean good can influence them. Bring your sons to church because there are godly men in church who can influence them. Bring your daughters to church because there are good, godly women in church who can influence them. And for each and every one of us here in church, let us learn to, be that influencer. Let us learn to, invest in the people in church. We don't know whose life we are influencing. We don't know who is watching us. We don't know who is paying attention to the lives that we live. Some of us here, could not have children. There are people who, for God's purposes, have shut up their wombs, like Hannah. But I'm here to tell that you don't need children to be a mother. You don't need children to be a father. Sometimes God is preparing you and making you so that you can be mothers and fathers to children of others. God will give you other people's children so that you can be parents to them, so that you can be role models to them, so that you can be influencers to them. Hannah prayed and God answered her prayer. Samuel, we know, was born. And at that time, the glory of God left Israel. But Samuel was that prophet who once again brought order back to Israel. He is the one who anointed Saul to be the first king. He was the one who anointed David to be king. We know David because of Samuel. And we know Samuel because of Hannah. This story of Hannah was given to us to teach us that when God is ready to prosper us, when God is ready to open our wombs, no one can get in our way. We talk about investing in our church. And the call today to each and every one of us is to invest in our own church, to invest in our family, because God Himself has invested in us. And that is the biggest investment. One day, on a hill called Calvary, on a cross that was blood-soaked, God put in His largest investment in you and in me. He took my place and your place. He died for me. He died for you. He stayed in the grave on Sabbath, and He rose up again on Sunday morning with power. God has invested in each and every one of us. Let us also learn to invest in the people around us. Thank you.